Hey everybody, welcome to another Tasting Room Conversations. We're glad that you're joining us here. Really an interesting conversation I'm expecting today with a friend of mine that we've met through the University of Maine and through the brewing world, and actually way back we crossed paths a little bit while we were both students at UMaine. But I'm here with Jason Bolton, who is food safety specialist and academic director of innovation engineering at the University of Maine. Thank you for taking the time
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So that's a title. Okay. That's a whole title.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what do you do, especially as a food safety specialist? I mean, that's on some level where you and I connect the most. When I have a question, I'm quick to say, well, before I proceed, let me shoot Jason an email.
Sure. So so the position is based out of Cooperative Extension, and some people aren't familiar with Cooperative Extension at the university. So every land-grant university has a kind of a three-tiered mission. So there's research, there's teaching, which is a priority obviously at a university, along with the research, and then there's the outreach portion. And the outreach portion is handled usually by extension, so Cooperative Extension, and it's a college basically that lies within every land-grant university. Cool. So University of Maine is the land-grant.
Yep.
And so I'm the food safety specialist within Cooperative Extension. So what I do is I work with food companies and beverage companies. So it could be beer, wine, liquor, seafood processors, meat and poultry processors, anything, vegetable, to help them understand regulations, understand the science behind where those regulations come from, and then also in some cases to validate certain processes that they use to make food, either an established process or something that's totally new.
Right. And that's something that I think we undervalue, in our minds a lot, the university system, because there's that to me is such a hugely valuable resource to be able to look at. I mean, right now we've had many conversations recently about Food Modernization Safety Act and everything that's coming from the FDA and how to be compliant, and well, none of it's overly complicated. For me as a owner of a brewery, having to figure out, okay, what does this mean? It's quite a task sometimes. And you've been certainly very helpful in that, because you speak that language and you read that stuff every day, and you see where it comes from.
Sure.
So in that, what are some of a day in the life of food safety specialists? I mean, I would imagine you get quite a few phone calls and questions on any number of things. I mean, it could be a lobster facility and then a brewery, and take me through, like, what does a day look like?
Oh, it varies, like many other people's days. It's one of those things where it's responding to a lot of emails around a lot of food safety questions, and it is all over the place. So I could get a call from a lobster processor saying, hey, we're opening up, or we have this problem, or we are looking to improve quality, or something along those lines, all the way to a very small processor that says, I have a new product and I need help getting it approved, or this is happening and why do you think it's happening? And so it varies. And then there's, on top of that, not 100% related to this position or this title, is day-to-day operations with students and courses that we teach and stuff like that. So it's all over the place. And then that doesn't even touch on the innovation engineering aspect. Totally different.
Yeah, we'll get to that, because that's always interesting as well. I mean, I know for me, when we look at a new process scenario, often that's when I'll reach out and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this, we're thinking about changing this, what have you seen, what have you heard, are there any thoughts, especially if we're looking at any sort of product innovation stuff, because we as a brewery are a food processor, we're a food processor looked at as a relatively safe process, so there aren't as many regulations as say a shellfish company would have. But it's still enough, it's still enough, and we always want to make sure that we're above board and doing those things. We've also seen, you know, with the brewing science that you're integrating into the food science program at the university. Some great opportunities for overlap there that have been pretty cool. So I'm sure a lot of people aren't aware of that whole program. Tell me about the brewing science program, what it's looking like, how it's come about, where it started, where you'd like to see it go, all that sort of stuff.
Sure. Well, I mean, and I appreciate it, brewing science program. It's really more of it's based out of the food science program.
Yeah.
So students that happen to be interested in fermentation for the production of, it could be food, you know, so it could be sauerkraut and things like that. We have a whole bunch of different faculty working on different fermented sauerkrauts, stuff out of seaweed and all kinds of stuff. You know, and then also for beverages, so beer. We're not doing distillates really. We're doing some kind of background work before it becomes a distillate.
Okay.
We're doing some work with kombucha. Trying to figure out what's in it and why does it do what it does and how consistent is it and things like that. And so, that's where the students get the experience, and then the education piece comes in the food science course in addition to the brewing course. So brewing with food science, been around since 2012, and it's a course that we're lucky that people like you know, professionals and experts in the brewing industry will come in and talk to the students about.
I am sometimes professional, expert. I don't know, that might be giving me a little.
Well,
I've learned some things along the way.
Well, and that's the cool thing is I've seen that evolved in you know, what you've done with regarding the marketing lecture, for example. But bringing in how, you know, it's not only the marketing piece, but also producing a consistent quality product. I mean, the students love listening to that, but they also want to hear the real you. Right. Not like, I'm going to get up there and I'm just going to, you know, do this lecture and they might have some questions, but they get to see what it's really like. Which is awesome.
And what it's really like in the brewing world, as you know. I mean, you're I would say, at least for the breweries that I'm closest with in this area, you are a very, very connected, positive resource for all of us, and so I mean it's been really good to see you being able to be such a resource and watch the brewing world change over the last couple of years. You know, and I think we've seen those changes, some for the good, some challenging. As you look at this course in brewing science, where do you see it going? I mean, I know there are some schools throughout the country, throughout the world, that offer full programs, fully developed, even you know, if not a certificate program, then sometimes even all the way into a degree, which is always intrigued me, because like as a brewer, I know that if I had gone to my parents as you know, a 17 or 18-year-old kid getting ready to college, and I'm like, hey, you know, I think I would like to get a degree in beer brewing. Never tried the stuff, mind you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what it tastes like.
I think I'd like that. It's always interesting to see how that works. So, you know, what not going to put you on the spot and say what's next, how's it going to get there, but what would you like to see from this? You know, I mean,
sure. I mean, there are a lot of established programs out there that, you know, do a whole range. I somewhat modeled early on, so this is like 2010. I modeled what I wanted to do, and we didn't get there, and that's okay. But it was after UC Davis's program. So they have a food science program within that, they have fermentation science, basically. And I spent a bunch of time with Charlie Bamforth, and it was a blast. I met him at a conference, and he said, come down anytime, and I'll show you around.
Yeah, and their program is world-renowned, at least within brewing circles.
Absolutely. And you know, and he knows a lot about it, and his predecessor and his extension partner that he teaches all the industry courses with, they know a lot. And I said, you know, where do you think the programs are going? And he said, look, there are a whole bunch of programs where if you just want to do this brewing, you go to one of those. If you want a degree in food science where you could do anything with it, and then on top of that, you know, focus on fermentation where you could go into the brewing industry, then you know, this is the type of program. So I said, that's what I should go for. And I said, well, okay, so with my collaborator at the university, Brian Perkins, I said, let's put together a basic course. and we can use it to get students interested, or at least aware of food science.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we've been doing ever since. We've along the way, we've also introduced a whole bunch of research. So we've had probably 4 graduate students doing research on brewing.
Yeah, and the research has developed labs and developed techniques that have been then again beneficial for the local breweries. That I don't know if people are aware of this, that your university is doing a lot of really good things for the business community in a lot of ways. And I know, like for us, we had a scenario where we wanted to and needed to have verified testing of our ABVs. So we test in-house, so we know what they are, but there was a scenario where we wanted to have that validation. We were able to send off cans to you guys for validated testing on another technique of testing the alcohol that actually tests what's there, where we are looking at sugar content and knowing what's converted and all that sort of stuff. And we were excited to find out that we were pretty close dead on to what it was, but it was just nice to have that resource at a price too. That, I mean, there are places throughout the country that we could send that that would do it, but to have it right here, to have it be run by people we know, quick turnaround, it was awesome.
Yeah, and that, I mean, you know, that's one of those things that we kind of got into as a result of just a need. You know, hey, look, we have the analytical equipment. They have the expertise. I mean, alcohol, ethanol, and ABV analysis is super easy, especially on this equipment. Yeah. And it's not specialized equipment. You know, there's alkalizers and all that stuff. This is stuff that's for analytical chemists. Yeah. So it gives you a very accurate measurement, but it's also a good learning tool for students, so we can help them learn a new technique. Right. Yeah. When they're analyzing all these other things within different products, they could analyze the ethanol. Yeah,
and that's what I love about it too. I mean, being a UMaine grad, there's something that warms my heart about the integration that we've been able to develop, and I hope to continue to develop and see. But it also, just from a business perspective, has been hugely beneficial. Hugely beneficial. So yeah, I'm excited to see as the craft beer world continues to grow and develop and change. I mean, I think we're in for a couple of very interesting years as we see continued growth in craft beer in our region, but also continued growth in the number of breweries and all these sorts of. The laws are changing. The world's just it's a wild thing. But I'm excited to see where this program might be in another handful of years. You know, I think it's a cool piece, and there's a lot of definitely blending of science and art in the beer world.
Absolutely.
That you need to be able to
I agree.
hold on to it. You know, I've had a lot of beers that are technically, scientifically sound, but they're just uninteresting. And I've had some that, well, I mean, let's look at, for example, the Cool Ship program from Allagash. Yeah. Like, that is,
it's incredible.
It's unbelievable what they're doing, and it's everything that scares me that I try not to do in beer. You know?
Yeah, let's. I mean, they do everything within a sanitation, but then they're like, let's just invite whatever.
See what happens. Yeah, and it works. Yeah, it works. It's cool. So let's shift into the innovation engineering. You know, that's a whole other world. What does that look like? What's that entail? Tell me about that.
So it's based out of the Foster Innovation Center on campus. And the program is really based on a industry program that was out there for training professionals within the business industry. And it was kind of the brainchild of a graduate of the university, alumni named Doug Hall. Okay. And Doug worked for a bunch of different corporations for a long time in different innovations. And through his kind of travels and studies and working with these different companies, looked at different procedures to systematize innovation. Okay. And it's done in Europe. I mean, they teach innovation management. They have innovation management MBAs and all that stuff. And I've been over to conferences there to see it. But really what it is providing a system for someone to solve problems. So to create solutions to problems, to be able to communicate those solutions. we use the word commercialize, but it's really to rapidly test something.
Okay.
To see if it's going to work. So one of the things that Doug always says is fail fast, fail cheap. Don't invest a bunch of money into something for eons only to find out it's not going to work. Identify all
That's
the
a hard
things.
thing to do in business.
Yeah.
It's a really hard thing to do in business. But you have to. We've had projects that you want to implement those go no go scenarios.
Yeah.
The simple piece is with a beer. Let's talk about that. I mean, there are so many times where the worst thing is to have a beer that you've invested in and you're ready to package, and it's sat in a tank and carried through a tank for a whole time, and now you have to kill it.
Yeah.
If we've had beers do that don't pass our final test, and that really sucks.
Yeah.
That beer that you brew and you wake up the next day and come in and the glycol unit has blown up and you are 12 hours into it.
Sure.
That's bad too, but at least you haven't invested all that time, you haven't invested more resources. Yeah. So that's interesting. That's a point that really has a lot of concrete understanding for me, especially in business.
But you've identified those, we call them death threats. You've identified those points where, okay, we want to put in fail safes to make sure that these don't happen.
Yes.
But if they do, you kind of have a process to deal with it.
Yeah, 100%. Every day we test along the way, and there are certain parameters that we're going to keep this or we're going to kill it today. Because if we can kill it today and save a few more days of trying. The beautiful part about the beer world is sometimes, especially if it's a small batch and something goes awry, you're still going to make a beer, you're just going to make a different beer than you would have, and you can then integrate that into something else as long as it's not a health hazard or anything like that. I mean, sometimes we've had examples where we had early on we had a batch of refueler that the glycol unit didn't work quite right. We ended up fermenting it too warm, had too much ester. It was different, but we were able to change it.
Pivot.
It was enough different. You could pivot. Yeah, you could pivot. But we had a Bangor Brown do similar. And what do you do with a brown ale with esters? It just
very difficult.
It's not right. So you just kill it. Yeah, it's interesting. So
that's basically it's this very expensive. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars industry course or training that we then converted into an academic program. And when I say we, it wasn't me early on. I had predecessors that worked on that, and then the program's evolved. It's a minor, it's an undergraduate certificate, and a graduate certificate within innovation.
So a student who goes through this program would come out into the workforce, presumably as a pretty nice commodity. Somebody that would really be able to bring value added immediately to a workforce, especially in a production type.
Anything. I mean, that's the neat thing is so the word engineering is always a little bit deceiving because engineering has a lot of systems in place,
right?
And that's really what we're teaching people is a system for doing this, for applying it. And it could be someone in history, it could be someone. We have degree collaborations in new media, in kinesiology. We get a lot of pre-engineering students that take a couple of our courses. A lot of food scientists, because product development is really hot. And then for graduate students, we get a lot of engineers, biologists, biochemists, just because they see development of their intellectual property and they want ways of kind of going through that process, because that's one of the things we teach them.
Yep.
And so then we have also, I don't direct the other portion, but then there's the other portion of our Foster Innovation Center outside the academic program where if a student has an idea for some sort of product or service or anything like that, we coach them. So we have faculty and staff that coach them, bring that through that whole process, provide them with office space and guidance, and they can participate in different competitions. And then we also work with intellectual property development on campus with faculty, and we also work out in the field. So, with companies that have questions about those things. So
it's so cool to see what when you do get involved in these things, the level of integration. And I mean, I would imagine what you're doing today at the university is vastly different than what you were doing when you first started. And probably vastly different than what you thought you'd be doing. I mean, I would imagine especially you get into this innovation engineering that strays far outside the realm of the food science.
Sure.
That's the core. But I think it's also, for me, just in my brain, it makes a lot of sense that you would have, you as that food science and being in the food safety side of things, you'd have a lot of overlaps of that innovation engineering and just kind of natural points of connection to it, but it is still vastly different.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I'd love to kind of use this to pivot into, I know you're from Arizona originally, and one of the things I love talking about in these tasting room conversations, we've hit two of the main things that I love to talk about is shine a light on some cool stuff that's happening right in our backyard that people don't know about, or might not fully know about, and give a little bit more to it. I mean, you can tell from this conversation we're just barely scratching the surface on all of the stuff we've already talked about, and that's cool. But also shine a light on people who have come to Maine or people who have stayed in Maine and the choices that they made to make that happen and why. So you're not where you thought you'd be, in necessarily the way it looks. But you're here and presumably happy to be here. And tell me a little bit about the story. How did you get here and what's it look like?
Yeah, so I grew up in Arizona in a suburb of Phoenix called Chandler. And I'd always come up to Maine because I had all my family's from the East Coast originally, New York. And I had an uncle that moved up here to teach at the University of Maine back in the 70s. He just recently retired. And it was always kind of glorified that, it's a great little university, great New England, small university town. So I'd been coming up every couple of years since I was a little kid. Cool. And when it came time to pick out a college or a university to attend, I looked into the Arizona schools, and none of them had food science, and I kind of learned about that as a result of my uncle, and then also talking with a few.
Is that what he was part of?
No, he's actually animal science, but he did a lot of collaborations with food science.
What got you into food science? I mean,
originally it was cooking, which is kind of the same, but not really. I mean, culinary arts provides you a whole different skill set than a food scientist. A food scientist has a really heavy biology and chemistry background and microbiology background. Applied towards food systems, opposed to a culinary arts specialist they do chef related things. I don't have that background. But that's what really got me into it. And then a lot of in the early 2000s, Alton Brown on the Food Network was this kind of, he was a culinary arts.
Good Eats, man.
So early on Good Eats.
And I came from that. Probably similar to where you did. I mean, I grew up in a restaurant family and all that sort of stuff, and the cooking has been central to me. But then in my undergraduate's ecology and environmental science, so I'm totally a science guy, and that show was that's awesome.
Well, and I met him once briefly at Starbucks. Cool. He was giving a keynote at this massive food science conference in 2006 in Orlando, and he was standing behind me, and the nicest guy just said, thanks for doing what you're doing regarding food science. And then he gave the best keynote I've ever heard.
That's funny.
He's 20-something thousand people.
He's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, so that was kind of got the ball rolling, and then I said, maybe I'll apply to Maine, and I'll also look at a closer school, and nothing in Arizona had an accredited food science program, so I applied to also UC Davis, and had a very big tuition bill, so I said, okay, I should re-examine this. I don't want to owe a couple $100,000 after an undergraduate.
Right.
So I looked at Maine, much more affordable. They gave me great scholarships, and then opportunity after opportunity. It's a small university with incredible opportunities throughout, from undergraduate to PhD. Yeah,
I would echo that opportunity aspect of it. I mean, it's rare for me to go through, even as somebody who's not as integrated in as you are, obviously, it's rare for me to go through a week without reaching out to and working with somebody that I know because of connections that I have from my time at UMaine.
Sure.
And then also, because I've reached out, you then can make more connections and more connections, and it's been a hugely valuable resource. That's interesting. So Maine. I mean, it's a little different than Arizona. I bet that first winter was a little interesting.
You know, it's funny because
I bet the first summer was delightful, though.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's not 120 yet? Good, yes. Yeah, my favorite thing that people say when I say I'm from Arizona, I don't hear it quite as much. I think it's a generational thing, but when they would say, "Oh, Arizona, well, that's a dry heat." So is your oven, and that cooks things. That's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's so hot there. No way, I'll never go back. Yeah. No, I mean, I think winter, having seasons, you know, like in Arizona, I would say there's hot and less hot. Mm-hmm. That's the seasonality in Arizona, unless you go up north. But here, I think my first fall, I was just enamored. First time, you know, I've never seen anything like that.
I feel so creative in the fall for some reason. I always just feel, whether it's playing music or brewing beer or just the thought processes that are going on. I mean, there's such a change there. Springtime is definitely transitional. Yeah. But it's so, like, the allergies get you, and the mud and the black flies and all that sort of stuff. But those crisp nights and the leaves changing, and that's some of my favorite. As a guy who's born and raised here, and, you know, I've had opportunities to go elsewhere, but I've had better opportunities here.
Sure.
And it's really where my heart is. That is one of the things that has always been in my mind when those opportunities to go somewhere else have come is missing, first and foremost, family and those sorts of things. But then beyond that, the season changes. They're so central to me and breaking up my year and
exactly.
doing those things.
I agree.
It's pretty
cool. It's something
cool.
to look forward to, you know. And in Arizona, it's sunny so often that, you know, you already notice it. But here, when you get that nice, beautiful sunny day, you know, like today, you're like, oh, okay, you notice it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Really notice it.
Yeah.
And you really appreciate it.
And I think the thing we don't notice that is abundant here is just the beauty of the nature that's around us too. I mean, the every once in a while, you know, this time of year I spend a lot of time up at camp and on the pond and all those sorts of things, and it's easy to take it for granted because it's like an every weekend sort of thing. But every once in a while I'll stop and look and be like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty rad.
Well, I always say one of my favorite rooms in the house is the screened-in porch. You know, because the bugs are pretty bad. Yeah. But, you know, you just look out. I just look in the backyard and I'm amazed. Yeah. You know, you don't see like that scenery.
And I love Maine in that it's got everything you need. It's got absolutely everything you need. It's got incredible resources. I mean, talking about the programs at the university, talking about you know, the beer scene that's grown up in the last couple of years, talking about all those sorts of things. There's a ton of opportunity here. There's a ton of intelligent people doing really, really cool things, and also a different pace than you get when you go into big cities and things like that. I mean, as big a city as Portland is, you know, it's not. It's not.
No,
so
I agree.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've go down to New York here and there, you know, other big cities, and I travel a fair amount. And I mean, it's something about Maine.
There is something.
I think the closest thing I came to that same feeling, or, you know, some of the local other places where that feeling is similar is New Brunswick, Canada. Not that far away, very similar. But also Scotland. Scotland really kind of similar. Yeah, cool. Different accent, but you know. I enjoy my time in Ireland. And we spend a lot of time in Fredericton. We've cool beer scene there.
Cool beer scene. We've actually collaborated with Maybe Brewing out of Fredericton, and we've got friends from Oromocto, which is a town just outside of there, that are now living here, and so we actually spend a lot of time up there. I'd echo that. It's a cool laid back vibe. Yeah.
Very very similar to.
Very similar. Yeah. A few differences, definitely, but very very similar.
Yeah, speed limits in different units.
Yep, that's always interesting. Funny thing, when we are brewing, we've collaborated with Maybe a few times, and in my science background, I spent a lot of time in metric systems.
Yeah, sure. I was about that. Yeah.
But in the brewing world,
Mm.
it's all Fahrenheit and
in gallons.
in gallons and pounds. But
Mhm.
the pounds and the volume thing, they actually are on a 10-barrel system over there, which
no hectoliters.
we didn't have to do the
Yeah.
what is it, 26 gallons in a hectoliter or something like that. We didn't have to do those conversions, and the kilogram to pound is not too bad. 2.2. That one's fine, but every time we had a temperature thing, we're like, and I can quickly ballpark it. But you can't
not precise.
can't ballpark the brewing.
No, it was plus or minus 5 degrees. It doesn't work.
We did last year the collaboration we did. We brewed a beer over there, and we called it Fahrenheit, and we brewed a beer over here, and we called it Celsius.
I like that.
Yeah, it's funny, but I agree. Pretty similar vibes. So.
Well, and I went a couple years ago. I went to Halifax, and just even seeing some of their breweries and stuff like that. And that's a neat city.
I'm excited
not
about
big, but little city.
Yeah, I'm excited about Halifax. The beer box is going to Halifax.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So I've actually got back-to-back weekends in August. One at a beer fest in Fredericton, and then the next
cool. Then you
weekend
head
in
over.
Halifax. So
That'll be nice.
that'll be all right.
Yeah,
that'll be all right. It's a little work getaway.
Yeah, sure.
So
It's like it reminds me of like Canadian Portland, or vice versa.
Yeah.
American Halifax.
Yeah,
it's a cool little place.
It's pretty rad from all indications. I haven't done the Halifax excursion yet. So
You
I'm
going
excited
anywhere
about
else,
that.
or when you're over there? Or?
Yes. Yeah, we're our friends from Oromocto, they have a family cottage on the coast of New Brunswick
Nice.
that we're gonna go spend a few days with them.
Great.
Yeah,
That'd be
it should
nice.
be fun. I guess we're gonna fish off the pier. I don't know.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Drink some beers, fish off the pier. I don't know. Maybe a Molson or two. I'm not sure. Slam some Alpines.
Oh gosh, yeah. Alpines, and what's the other one? That's one of their original IPAs. I always forget the name of it. And it's not might be traditional to a long time ago. And I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's brewed in Halifax.
Yeah.
You can do the tour there, which is,
Yeah.
oh man, they do it's a funny tour because they're in character from the 1800s and they
Oh,
put on
really?
accents. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out. Well, awesome. I really appreciate the time to come
Thanks
and
for
chat.
having
I'm stoked that you found your way from from Arizona to Maine.
Yeah, me too.
And have found a career that is benefiting a lot of people. And I mean, from my perspective, it goes back to the relationship we have through the beer world, but I know there are food processors and those food processors are so integral to the success of our main fisheries and our main agriculture and all those sorts of things. So the work you're doing is very integrated into the health of our state's economy, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the university system for being that land grant institution that provides those opportunities for our area. And I encourage everyone to check out all the stuff that the university is doing. And we can put some links to stuff if you've got stuff. We'll put that at the end of the video. So.
Yeah, I mean, Cooperative Extension offers so much.
Yeah.
That's the amazing thing.
Yeah.
Animal and pest diagnostic stuff and plant diagnostic stuff. I mean, it's just
awesome.
Amazing the resources
Yeah.
you can find an answer.
It's been, I mean, I knew it was there, sort of, for a lot of my life. Just had heard it and knew it was this thing that was there to support the community and support education and business growth and all these sorts of things. I got a little bit more of it as I was a student there, but then really over the last handful of years as we've branched out into this production world, it's been amazing to see. And you're right, every time I see something else, there's 3 or 4 more things that I learn about it that go,
me too.
wow, okay, wow, I didn't know it did that. It's awesome. So I really appreciate the time. Thanks for grabbing
Thank you.
here. We've done this before, just not on
Yeah,
camera. So.
exactly.
It's good.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you.